friends! Finally, I have some time and I'm going to answer all your questions. First of all, thank you for all your questions. I really appreciate it. So let's start. So Christian from Twitter says, how do you maintain or upkeep so many languages? What do you do and what keeps you motivated enough to do it? I think Christian asked this question before I uploaded both my how to stay motivated video and my video on how to maintain many languages, like how do polyglots keep up so many languages. So please, Christian and everybody else who has this question, by all means take a look through my channel under the language learning playlist, and I have videos that answer that question for you in depth, so take a look there. Ho says, do you think certifications are useful in general, or are they useful only to people who aim to have a career in the country where the language they're learning is spoken? Do you have any certifications for the languages you speak? I used to have the DELF for the French exam. I can't even remember my level because it was in high school. This really depends on person to person. Personally, I don't think certifications are important for me, because I work as a designer in South Africa and I don't really need to prove that I can or cannot speak some languages. However, if I do plan on going to Japan, I think it will be necessary for me to have at least an N3 or N2 level in Japanese, so I will be taking the JLPT if I plan to move there. Yes, so certifications are important if you do plan on working in the country. However, if you are the type of person who is super motivated and goal-driven and you just want to add certifications to your CV or be able to brag about it, by all means go take a test. It really depends on your situation and your priorities. Next question, Euclid says, I've seen one of your videos where you speak Arabic. Are you still learning it now? Did you just learn it at school in Dubai? If you aren't learning it now, would you consider doing it in the future? Shukran. Fun. No, unfortunately, I'm not really focusing on Arabic at the moment. I would really like to be able to speak it fluently again one day, but given my priorities and where my life is at the moment, it's not extremely important for me to up my Arabic. Okay, Lucia says, what languages do you encounter on a daily basis in South Africa? Would you like to learn Spanish? And what is the hardest language you've tried to learn? So South Africa has 11 official languages, though they do kind of differ from area to areas. But all of them are spoken in Johannesburg. I mainly hear Zulu and Sotho at work as well, and in the shops and stuff. I'm trying to learn Zulu. I don't speak much besides the basic greetings. And of course, Afrikaans. And at work we speak English and sometimes Afrikaans. Like if the person who sits next to me is Afrikaans, so I'll talk to her in Afrikaans. But obviously if we're doing group work or a presentation, it would be in English. Would you like to learn Spanish? I have to be very, very honest and say Spanish is not one of my favorite languages. It's really cool, it has cool music, it's very similar to French, so I can understand it fairly well, but I can't speak it. And I don't think Spanish is at the top of my list of languages I would like to learn. Maybe one day, but not at this very moment. And the hardest language I've tried to learn now would be between Hungarian and Thai. For some reason, I still think Thai is a bit more difficult because the script is very intricate, many letters look the same, and it's a tonal language. I do think Thai is at the top of the list of most difficult languages. Kate, hi Kate, says, are you still taking questions? Yes, I am. What got you interested in Hungarian? Okay, if I have to be really, really honest, I met a Hungarian guy online and he taught me a little bit of Hungarian, and I thought the language was really beautiful and interesting. And I thought it would be a really cool challenge. Most people said Hungarian is, one of the hardest languages in the world. But as usual, what I say for most languages is that listening to Hungarian music really got me interested into it. I absolutely love music, so hearing some interesting Hungarian songs made me think it would be so cool to be able to understand what they're singing. New year, new me, new experiences, new challenges. Chronicles of Chlavin says, I have tried chatting with a few friends on Hello Talk, and while it has improved my writing a lot over the years, I tend to get easily tired of chatting every day. Me too. and I find myself struggling to find topics to converse about. Any tips on how I could have a productive language exchange? Language exchanges are quite an iffy area for language learners. You'll often encounter people who are only on language exchange sites for dating. You get annoying, creepy people. But I think it's really good to set up a plan, and I guess you just have to sift through everybody until you find the right person. I'm very happy with my current Hungarian language partner, so Adrian and Csaba, if you're watching this, szia és köszönöm. And the most important thing is that both parties have to be equally committed. The best language exchange is to find somebody who can fix your mistakes without you feeling bad about them or without them feeling like it's work. So it's good to have it both ways. My one friend is learning Japanese and I help him with that, and he helps me with Hungarian. The best thing that he does is he writes all the sentences in Hungarian with English after it. However, he's kind of adjusted to my level, so as I improve my Hungarian, he uses less and less English. And I mean, it's difficult to find topics to talk about if you don't, even live in the same country. But, gosh, I mean, it really depends on people's personalities. I've had some terrible, unfruitful language exchanges and some really great ones, so it just takes time to find the right person. Good luck. I'm sorry, I do not know how to pronounce your name. Mate Friedrich says, how did you become a polyglot? That's a difficult question. I think the term polyglot is very loosely thrown around. So how did I become a polyglot? Well, how did I start this journey of being an aspiring polyglot? I think I've always been interested in foreign languages, and when I was in my last year of high school, I got really bored of studying for final exams and I decided, well, why don't I just pretend to be productive and study languages? So obviously I had learned French and Korean at that time, but during my exam time I started really focusing on Japanese and Chinese, and it was just fun for me, and the languages kind of snowballed from there because they're quite similar. I guess it's just kind of an addiction. It's really fun. Isaac, hello, says, which writing system do you find most attractive and intriguing? Thai. And which languages do you speak or are learning? Oh, excluding languages you speak or are learning. Well, I don't know if I'm learning Thai, so I guess that counts. Or Khmer, Cambodian. Very beautiful scripts. And also Georgian. Georgian is stunning. A beautiful, beautiful script. Very intriguing. Okay, Chisai Otaku says on Tumblr, how long did it take for you to learn Japanese? How can I perfect my handwriting? What is your favorite Japanese food? And so forth. So I had been studying, not studying, but dabbling in Japanese for about 2 years before I heard my parents move to Japan. So I only seriously started learning in 2013 in my first year of university. And I think my Japanese really improved rapidly when I was able to visit Japan multiple times and also work there. How can I perfect my handwriting? Just write. You will eventually get to know how your hand and your muscles work, and there are some guides on how to correctly write the characters. So even if you know the character stroke order, it's good to review it and go through those books, the kanji books and stuff, and just trace them and go over and over and over and over until your hand gets used to it. So the only way to improve your writing is to keep writing a lot. It doesn't help if you look at people's handwriting or think about handwriting. You have to train your hand. Sometimes it helps if you want to change your pen to write with a smaller pen. I found that using a 0.5 or a 0.35 nib pen really helped me write kanji a lot neater and cuter, I guess. What's your favorite Japanese food? I love karaage. I don't know if that counts, the chicken nuggets. Also ramen, tsukemen. I really like those. I'm not really a seafood eater, so woe is me. Favorite Japanese artist? Ooh. At the moment, I'm currently into ukiyo and sakanakshon and eme. I also like eme right now. And sekai no owari. And yeah. Too many people to mention. I could make a list on Tumblr sometime. Have you made any friends in Japan? Yes, I've been lucky enough to, my parents lived there, so I've traveled there, I guess around 10 or 11 times. So, I have a lot of friends from church there. We went to a great church called Tokyo Baptist Church in Daikanyama. Most of my friends are from there. and also from work. So I interned at 3 different design agencies in Tokyo, and most of my colleagues became my friends. Alta Menne says, when you were learning Korean, what did your study schedule look like? How long did you study? Did you study every day? I still learn Korean, so I don't think I ever finished learning. In high school, I took lessons for about a year, once a week for 2 hours, and then I would do my homework for 2 or 3 days then. And then when I was in holiday at school, I would study every single day for about 2 hours. And then it sort of faded out by university when I reached an intermediate conversational level, when it wasn't really necessary to study because I could communicate my ideas freely. So currently I don't study every day, and I don't really use a lot of textbooks. I just make sure to consume a lot of Korean content, to talk to Korean friends, and I always write my diary in Korean. Every single day I have a small diary entry in Korean, so I just try and keep it up. Next is Whitney. How do you decide which language to study, and do you have separate days for languages? If you mean how do I decide what day to focus on a language, I don't have a language learning schedule because I feel really bad if I can't stick to it. It does work for some people, unfortunately not for me because I'm really busy at work and I come home tired. But generally, it's honestly, to be completely honest with you, it's what I feel like. So I go into these moods like today's a Hungarian day. I'm just going to listen to Hungarian music and read Hungarian books. And then the next day I might be totally obsessed with French again and just focus on that. So it really goes up and down. It's not very stable. S says, do you recommend learning Korean after Japanese, and how did you improve your Korean accent? Yes, I do recommend learning Korean after Japanese if you want to, and if you have the motivation and time. There's no specific order. I learned Korean first and then Japanese, and I know of a lot of people who learned Japanese first and then Korean. The 2 languages do have a lot of things in common, especially grammar and some vocabulary, so it shouldn't be too much of a challenge. How did I improve my Korean accent? I was just listening to a lot of Korean people talk and repeating them. So I used to phone Korean friends, and sometimes we talk for 5 hours on end, and just hearing how people say things naturally, copying the intonation, that really helped a lot. There's 2 ways to that. You have to listen, and you have to speak as much as you listen. The more you speak, the more used to the sounds your tongue gets. So practice listening and speaking to improve it. I also have a video on how to sound more natural in Korean, so some tips and tricks there, so please check out that video. Lindie says, I know it's been a while since you posted this video. I was wondering where you got your Vietnamese books. I'm Vietnamese and want to learn more, but there are 0 Vietnamese materials. Okay, so it's tricky because I don't know where you live, and if you have stuff like Amazon to order books in your country. We also don't have any Vietnamese resources here in South Africa. So the one Vietnamese textbook I bought is written in Korean, and I bought it in Korea when I was visiting there. Then I have 2 Vietnamese books which I bought in Japan. I know this is not very helpful, sorry. And then 1 Vietnamese dictionary from Collabs, which you can hopefully get anywhere. So I think the best way to learn if you can't find resources is to just dive in, do a lot of Google searches, learn on YouTube. There are great channels that teach Vietnamese. I especially like the channel called Southern Vietnamese for Foreigners. That's if you're learning the Southern accent. More Holan, sorry if I can't say your name, says, I saw you had a couple of Korean video lessons on your channel. Are you planning on making any more lessons for learning Korean? Yes, I am. I'm just really slow at them, and I sort of struggle to think of topics because I don't know what people already know or would want to learn. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. But I do indeed plan on expanding that series. Thank you. Star said Cherry Blossom Supreme says, how do you stay motivated when learning your target language? Please watch my video on motivation. And do you have any resources you've used to learn Japanese? Yes, wow, so many resources. There is a good YouTube channel called Nihongo no Modi, which focuses on the JLPT. And a simple Google search of Japanese learning resources will be good. Tumblr is especially great. There are studiblers focused on the Japanese language, and they post a ton of resources. They post vocab lists, translations. So have a browse through Tumblr as well. I mean, I see you've asked me on Tumblr, so you've probably looked at Japanese Study Blurs. I also like to listen to podcasts. Japanese Pod 101 is pretty decent, but you have to pay after a while. And then a podcast I especially like to listen to is called Hikibiki. It's not for learning Japanese, it's a podcast for Japanese people. But while I listen to it, I like to write down some words I hear that I don't know the meaning of, and then I'll look up the meaning afterwards. And lastly, Daniel and Darian say, describe your routine when learning languages. I don't have a routine. I wish I did. I wish I had time for a routine. I constantly switch up my Hello Talk language, which I know you're not really supposed to do. It like gives you a time limit, like you can only update it once a week or once a month. So I always change my Hello Talk language so I can meet new native speakers and practice with them. And I guess the majority of my language learning time is dedicated to listening to music and talking to native speakers. And then secondary to that would be using textbooks. And I still love using textbooks and writing notes. I find it really therapeutic. So I just try and do that whenever I have time. And, whenever I'm waiting for something, I'll use an app to review